Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jae-Jin Park, and welcome to Living the Autistic Life, a panel discussion in recognition and celebration of Autism Acceptance Month. So it is my pleasure to welcome you all. A few housekeeping items to mention. For those who would like to access closed captioning, you can access closed captioning at the bottom, kind of like the bottom middle of your Zoom screen. There's a little button with the CC logo. If you click on that, you can turn captioning on or off. We also have Anne, who is providing American Sign Language interpretation. You should be in a video window up at the top of the screen or top or centered doing sign language. So thank you. We ask that for the duration of the panel discussion, you kind of highlight our panelists' videos. We ask that you, and to minimize background noise, to please keep your mics muted and videos off for the duration of the panel discussion. We will have time for Q&A from you lovely participants. If you have questions throughout the panel discussion, and if you're able to put them in the chat, and we will put them toward the end of the presentation. If you would like to communicate via ASL interpretation, if you can make a note and send a message to Christine via the chat, we will do our best to Anne so that Anne can pin you so that at the end, when you have your question, we can again, thank you all for being here. I'd like to give recognition and appreciation to the organizing groups. So thank you to our organizing organizations, the UIC's Institute on Disability and Human Development, UIC's CANS, the Chicagoland Disabled People of Color Coalition, the Chicagoland Autism Connection, and the CAC Trailblazer Self-Advocacy Group, and Unique Suites, and the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. We are all very happy for our partnership and thrilled to have this event. So with all the housekeeping and introductions out of the way, I'm going to turn over to our panel moderator, Helen, and to take it away. And to make it easier for us to focus on our panelists, I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can see everybody. Take it away.
Thank you, Jae-Jin. I'm so excited to be moderating this panel. And to start off, I would just love for each of our panelists to introduce themselves and say a little bit about what they do and who they are. So I'll go to Jada first, if that's okay.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Jada Thompson, and I am the current president of the CAC Trailblazer, which is our advocacy group under the Chicagoland Autism Connection. I am also a global ambassador for Best Buddies, as well as a current board member for the Chicagoland Autism Connection and an activist. And I'm 23 years old, and I am autistic.
Thank you, Jada. TJ?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Timotheus Gordon Jr., also known as TJ Gordon. I am a research associate at UIC's Institute on Disability and Human Development. I am also an autistic self-advocate and writer and a father. And lastly, I am one of the co-lead organizers for Chicagoland Disabled People of Color Coalition, or Chicagoland BPOC.
Thank you. Dylan.
Hi everyone, my name is Dylan Miller. I'm from Berwyn, Illinois, and it is by Chicago. And I'm a student at Columbia College Chicago, and I major in radio, and I have autism.
Thanks, Dylan.
Do you want me to explain why I major in radio?
If you'd like to, certainly.
You're welcome. All right. The reason why I major in radio is because back in years ago, when I was a student at Morton College in Cicero, Illinois, I had my own radio show called Cool Music Time with DJ Dylan. And in that show, I play music from all types, from old rock and roll to future pop. And I write and announce my own PSAs.
That's super cool. Thank you. David?
You can hear me just fine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, my name is David Erickson. I'm a line cook at a well-known restaurant, and I'm also associated with a Unique Sweets.
Thank you. Liza? Sorry, I muted myself and then started talking. Liza, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Liza Curiel. I am an autism mom. My son is 23 years old. I'm also the president of Unique Suites and of LULA, Latinas United in Love for Autism. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Kim?
Good evening, everyone. Many of you already know my name is Kimberly Johnson. I am the board president for Chicagoland Autism Connection, a professional advocate in the disability community, as well as a program engagement specialist for Chicago Public Schools. And I'm excited to be here. Oh, and my most important job, I'm a mom of a young adult living with autism.
Thank you so much. So the first question, and maybe we can have our self-advocates answer, and then if our parent advocates have anything they want to add, they can jump in at the end. But the first question is, what does it mean to you to live an autistic life?
I'll go. So this is Jada. So for me, living an autistic life means being comfortable in your own skin. So for me, for years, I just didn't know who I was. So growing up, I would just, there's this term called masking where you emulate the behaviors of your peers so that way people won't recognize your autistic trait. So I would do that and I would find identity from my peers. And now at 23 years old, now I truly know who I am, and I accepted the fact that there's nothing wrong with me and being autistic isn't bad. So for me, it's just living your truth and accepting all the quirks and perks that comes with being autistic.
Excellent. Thank you. TJ, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. How would I describe living a autistic life? Well, for starters, I think living an autistic life is awesome because I think having autism brings you like a lot of adventures as far as navigating your neighborhood, your surroundings, your passions and jobs and family. It's a adventure within itself, and you get to use um your autism or your abilities related to autism to just explore and have a blast. So living the autistic life is using your autism or using your gifts as a result of autism to just enjoy life on your own terms and having the swagger to not care what anybody else says about how you should live your autistic life.
Thank you. Dylan.
To say something, autism makes my brain act. To say something, autism makes my brain work extra hard to learn new things. I feel like my life is very sheltered, especially now because of the pandemic. I am looking forward to going back to college in the fall.
That's great. Thank you. And I appreciate that you acknowledged the impact of the pandemic, which has obviously had a dramatic effect on all people, but especially people with disabilities and autistic people in changing our routines and our daily lives. David.
For me, I do admit it does provide like a slight obstacle to overcome in order to and get some of the process that other people and that is mostly accustomed to most people.
And parent advocates, do you have anything you want to add about what it's like for your families?
I think I was so excited to hear the perspective from persons living with autism. I just really wish William was here, so I'm going to reserve that comment.
I think that there's certainly pros and cons to living with autism, and I think I always say, and I think it confuses people, I say that both my sons are impacted by autism because one is a sibling and one is living with it, and you can't, and it impacts the family, and I think it impacts families in different ways. You know, it could be very difficult for people. For some people, it means, you know, the loss of job, and for some people, it might not be as impactful. And so, I think for us, it's given us an opportunity to learn a lot about how to be self-aware and how to be supportive of others.
Thank you. I love that emphasis on support. That I think is a key to keeping the family connected and strong, even amidst the challenges that you brought up. So now I have some questions that I want to focus on the self-advocates. And if you're comfortable going in the same order that you've been going in, that would be great. So the first is, how does autism influence your daily life?
Okay, so I believe I went first. So, how autism affects my daily life? So, in many different ways. Like for me, when I was younger, I was very sensitive. I remember being very timid. Being just so aware of myself and just being afraid of everything because I just thought that the world is scary because that's how I was able to perceive it. But as I gotten older, I realized that it's not as scary. Actually, it isn't really scary at all. It's just something to get used to. So for me, even though there have been moments where I had my meltdowns, and my meltdowns were bad to the point where, I had to get professional help for it, I was able to learn more things about me and accept the fact that my brain does work differently. And I'm also a really positive person, so I make sure that I see everything from a positive perspective, and I'm very adventurous, so I try to see the good in everything. And oftentimes I often use my imagination, but I also make sure that I understand that I do live in the real world. And oftentimes my mother, she is not afraid to put me in my place when it comes to, you know, getting me out of La La Land. So I accept the fact that I have my own imagination, and I do everything with kindness and fun, and uh, dance, because I love music and I love to dance. And then I also learned how to do real world things, and I I am now learning how to do a lot of stuff independently. And it's a beautiful thing because I'm able to learn about the world on my own and really see how the world truly is, but also put my own spin to it.
I think if we go in the same order, then I'll go ahead and go next. So I think my daily life as an autistic person manifests itself in many ways. From the work perspective, whatever I do, I have to make sure I research it, analyze things, make sure that I do things not only as instructed, but better, just to make sure that everyone is pleased with my work. But I also need more time to work, because otherwise, if I don't have enough time, and because I have to give more information and put all my energy into one task, then my work will be incomplete. And in the real world, I could be fired. But luckily, I'm in a position where I get accommodations for needing more time to process and complete tasks and getting reminders to turn in my assignments. As far as day-to-day life outside of work, sometimes I need reminders because I could forget dates, because so many things going on in my head in my daily life that I forget dates, important things to do, and not mean it. But on the other hand, when I start a task like cleaning or cooking, not only I will get it done, but I'll also try to get it as best of conditions as possible. And lastly, from a parent's perspective, since I'm not only a person with autism, but also an autistic parent, sometimes I go all out for my goddaughter or my son, to the point where I just can't make up my mind and what to provide. 'Cause I like to go all out and provide what they need. and the best and not have to. But I learned also to just enjoy the moment. And sometimes it's okay not to give them everything they want, but as long as they get everything they need. Unfortunately, sometimes with I guess I need to make things not even perfect, but make things right. That gives them away.
Thanks so much, TJ. Dylan, as a reminder, the question is, how does autism influence your daily life?
Well, autism makes me behave weird, like jumping and flapping whenever I listen to music or picture exciting movie scenes in my mind. Sometimes it can make me do stupid things and mistakes like not being able to follow instructions. Sometimes autism makes me hold on to memories of mistakes I've made, which makes me upset. It's difficult for me to be focused on things that don't really interest me.
Thank you for that. And David.
For me, how autism affected my daily life, I do admit sometimes I feel really slow with trying to understand things, yet other times my mind can get a bit ahead of myself. It it's like an on and off thing where it's sometimes a positive and sometimes negative. It's probably due to either my energy or my mental state at the time. Yeah, let's just say that my emotions can have a bigger impact than usual.
Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense, thinking about the positives and the challenges. And that takes me to our next question, which is, what is something positive about your life that you attribute to being autistic? And we'll go again to Jada to start.
So I love this question very dearly because if I could make a list of all of the things that I love about being autistic, or even name things that embrace me about being autistic, my list will probably be as long as the Willis Tower, honestly. But one thing that I love about being autistic is that I love the energy that we have. I love how passionate we are about our special interests. Like for me, I have multiple, and a lot of us, some have multiple, especially with girls, because with autism in girls, I don't think a lot of people know this. I think some do, but it's actually very common for autistic girls to have multiple interests. So I love that I get to have multiple interests and I get to go back and forth with some of my interests, and that includes music, animals, YouTube, technology, uh, skincare, um, productivity, all of that stuff. I love all of those things, and also just how I perceive things in the world. And I love that I'm able to understand people, but in my own way. Sometimes I may not truly know how to show it, but if I hear someone, if it's a friend that I know, or if it's just someone that I just happen to see it down the street, I'm able to step into their own shoes, and I'm able to see where they're coming from. And that is something that I had a hard time struggling with, but I'm getting better at it each and every day. So I love the fact that we're able to do our own thing in our own way. and not being able to conform to society's norms. And that's a good thing. And I just hope that, you know, non-disabled people are able to see it and understand where we're coming from.
Yes, this is the fun part. So from what you asking is, what are the positive aspects of being autistic? I have a few in mind, and I try to keep it short because I want to respect you all's time. My biggest positive, I guess, is that I can see from many perspectives on certain things. Neurotypical people who don't have autism or different brain wirings may only see one or two ways of seeing the world or doing things. But because I could pay attention to details that some may not pay attention to because of the information I put in my head and some of my experiences that I went through, I could see things in multiple perspective, and then I could use those perspectives to problem solve or to address certain things. So I love the fact that I'm able to see different things. I'm also willing to adjust. For some people, they call it you're indecisive, you don't know what you want, you don't know where you stand. Well, I do know where I stand. I do have strong morals, but with how my brain works and how I see the world, I don't stick to one answer or one way of living. I adjust to the situation, to certain people. I think my ability to adapt to certain situations has been beneficial. In addition to my invitation, when I'm passionate about certain things, oh, I show it. I show it. Like, for instance, I love football. I'll make it a point to talk about football or display football related videos and such to my friends, talk about football and historic moments related to football. Heck, I even joke with my colleague Helen about football because basically we come from rival states and we graduated from rival undergraduate schools. So I always use either a Packers advanced reference or a Minnesota and Wisconsin reference somehow. And I think just having the passions for certain things can help me connect to people I thought I would never connect with. And in fact, I think in some instances, your passion don't really even make you strange or autistic. I think you can fit right in, depending on what you enjoy.
Thank you so much. I love hearing these answers. And so as a reminder of the question for Dylan, it's what is something positive about your life and being autistic?
Well, about autism, it makes me different, and I like not being like other people. It's hard to think of positives of autism, but I like that others can learn about autism by knowing me.
That's awesome. Thank you. And David? David, I saw that you unmuted yourself, but I can't hear you.
There we go. Does that work?
Aha. Yes, now I can hear you.
It's just, and just like what TJ said, the fact that even though we have a different view on the world, uh, and some people understand what we mean, some people have a hard time understanding us. But I do admit we are a bit different, but it's quite simple to understand at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. I loved the range of answers we're getting from our panelists too, and how we're impacting others in our communities and what we're passionate about. And I really loved what Jada said about that list being as long as the Willis Tower, because there's so much, there are challenges certainly, but there's so much to love about being who we are and finding joy in ourselves. So my next question for you is, what is challenging about your life being autistic, and how can allies help support you in those challenges?
All right, so I have a lot of challenges, quite a lot. Not a whole lot like it used to be, but I still have some. And one of my biggest challenges is really just speaking up for myself, sticking up for myself, and also just reaching out for help when I need it. Because by nature, I'm really shy and quiet. Despite all of these speeches and all of these Zoom calls that I have done, I'm still very introverted, and oftentimes it makes it easier for people to try and take advantage of me. And I've been dealing with it for years. And I think that a lot of people know that I'm autistic, and they use that as an excuse to try and control me. And it's not everyone, it's just some of my peers. Because I have met some individuals that judge me, and they will literally just try to be nice to me because they feel bad for me. So I have to understand that, there are people that don't embrace uh, the autism like we do. And there are people that will come after you when you come off as vulnerable. So that is one of many challenges. But another one really is just asking for help. Because for me, I come from a family of hard workers. And my mom, who is also one of the hardest working women that I know, I see her do everything, and oftentimes she does it a lot without help. So for me, because I see a lot of the stuff that she does, I think that maybe I just need to do everything on my own, and not ask for help, because I don't want to be dependent on other people. And now I'm learning that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to reach out when you need it, but just don't try and take advantage and take their kindness for weakness. And it is a challenge, but the one good thing about it is that every journey has obstacles. And one thing about me, I'm down for a challenge. And every challenge that I have faced, I face it with grace. So even if I stop for a bit, and if it seems like I give up, or I come back, and I come back twice as strong.
One, Jada, what type of challenges are you talking about? I mean, I'm down for any challenge. Are you talking Uno? What type of challenges? No, I'm just kidding. Because it could go other ways. But back to the question at hand. What are the barriers that I face being autistic, and how can family members, allies, or caregivers support people like us? The barrier that I have, especially when it comes to relationships, I get the sense that people do not understand me or want to understand me because I process differently than others, because I'm more action oriented than feelings based. I'm more of a solution driven person rather than just talking about issues and stuff. And some people could see me as more of a goofball, childish, because I like to joke a kid, and sometimes that could come across as, what's wrong with this guy? And I think that's why I have trouble with relationships in the past, because people don't understand me. They don't want to take the time to understand. And on my end, we not good with gray areas. Not only gray areas in certain social situations like social cues, but also mind reading somebody's emotions. I can't see how a person is feeling, because what if their expression doesn't match their inner feeling, or what if their inner feeling is badness but it comes out as happiness? I can't really decipher. And as a result, people in the past will think I don't care or I don't get the hint, even though there's miscommunication, because nobody told me what's going on verbally or like in detail. And so it's all about context with a lot of things, and some things you may not just recognize because you're not exposed. Some jokes you may not get because you haven't been exposed to the content of the joke, or even some conversations you can't be the part of because you're not exposed to certain things. Like I can't talk about folks' love of contemporary music simply because I don't listen to the radio that much. And that doesn't make me weird. It's just, I got different interests. So, in short, for the supporters, allies, caregivers, and family members, be patient with us. Please be patient with us. Just listen to us. You don't have to figure out everything right at that moment or try to understand what we going through in your words, but just hear us out and be patient with us, especially when we go through moment of confusion.
Thanks, TJ. So again, the question is, what is one big challenge, or what are some challenges you face in your life, and how can allies or family members help and support you in facing those challenges? So now we'll go to Dylan.
Well, to say something about the biggest challenge of living with autism, since I've told you guys about mistakes I think of that can make me upset, my thought of the biggest challenge of living with autism um, is that I hate having autism because it creates problems that make people angry at me. It makes me want to hate myself. When I am in the outside world and at school, I try my best to keep my autistic behaviors under control so that I won't scare other people. I also struggle to build relationships with others. Well, some people get angry. Sorry, I just saw the message in the chat. Um, Even though I've told you guys that I can hate myself for the mistakes I make, I realize that we cannot hate ourselves for what we've done.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, I think that's a big challenge, is how we're perceived and how we think about the things that we've done, and maybe things that we've misunderstood or miscommunicated. That can be really challenging. David, you're next.
For me, honestly, I do admit there are some challenges, like and you know that I mentioned earlier that sometimes my emotions can be fluctuated, and like and with me, it can be overwhelming that I wind up having a bit of a meltdown if I end up being overwhelmed. But honestly, ever since I exited my teenage, I practically have managed to grow out of that for the most part. But I still fear that it might come again.
Yeah, thank you. Before we open it up for questions, my last question for all of the panelists is, what one thing do you think it's important to share with autistic people, and also with our families, communities, and allies? So we'll go to Jada.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The question is, what one thing do you think it's important to share with autistic people, their communities, families, and allies?
Just accept us. Just listen to us. It's very cliche, and it's being, and I know a lot of my peers are saying it, but just listening to us and amplifying our voices, like the panel that we're on, you know, what me and Dylan and David and TJ, having these opportunities will definitely help us. And also listening to, our other peers on social media, and uh, getting involved with organizations like CAC, Trailblazers, and the Answer Inc. Organizations like that will definitely help you understand our world, and just to get to know different perspectives. But the best perspective comes from us, the individual ourselves. And also, just make sure that you treat everyone with kindness, treat us with kindness, and just try and take a step in our shoes.
My parting words for the evening are the following two things. To echo what Jada talked about in regards to come to us, autistic people, if you have any questions related to autism outside of the medical field. Remember this saying, if you met one autistic person, you met one autistic person, meaning that just because you know of one autistic person experience doesn't mean that it will translate to everybody's experience. We all have different experiences. Even my experiences are different from Jada's, Dylan's, or David's, or Curtis's, or many of the autistic people in the Zoom or in general. So just listen to each of our stories as separate but interconnecting stories and not one huge singular narrative. I'll also like to I think Yasmin. Oh yes, Yasmin. To echo what you're saying about non-autistic or neurotypical people should make more of an effort to understand autistic people, learn how to work with us and accommodate us. I agree, and I also like to add that accommodating us is not a burden. Just like I'm sure with some of the parents in the room, even me, when I don't know, my kids gets older and they run around. I'm sure there'll be times where you want to tell the children, can you please keep the noise down? I'm not feeling it today. My head hurts. It was too much noise. I mean, accommodations like that is just as normal as accommodating your autistic loved one when they need their space or they need time to process or they need to step away. It's nothing against anyone. They just need to be at their best and chill out so that they can be the best.
Thanks so much. So again, for Dylan and David, the question is, what one thing would you like to share with autistic people and their families and communities? So Dylan, you're next.
Helen, are you asking do I like hence my personal life?
Just anything you want to share that you think people should know about your life.
Oh, oh yeah, for self-advocates.
Yes, for self-advocates. What should other self-advocates know?
Well, oh, okay. Well, my message to self-advocates is to try to learn as much as possible from your parents if they are good to you and want to help you. I'm lucky that my mom has loved me and taught me so much.
That's awesome. David, what's your message for everyone tonight?
Well, I would say that the biggest part will be like a lot of patience, and because and even though we have autism, some of us may be understood quicker. Some of us may take even longer to be understood. And the fact that we have autism doesn't make it mean that we even adapt to things at the same rate as most people. Yeah, sometimes it will take us time to adapt and eventually like use something to link ourselves with other people.
Yeah, awesome. Liza, what would you like to share, either specifically to parents or to the whole community, based on your experience?
I echo what everyone has mentioned so far about patience and really, I think as parents, just listening. Sometimes we think we know, and sometimes we just have to like stop and just really listen to what our child is telling us. But I like what Jada said, and I think it's so important to be involved. I think we don't have to be greatly involved, but I think if we just do a little bit, little by little, you get a lot. And so I think that some level of participation for parents and for family members, I think that that's the way you learn. And that's how you're able to create inclusion or create more opportunities, is just by using your circle of influence that's right around you to educate people about autism.
Thank you. And Kim.
Hello, everyone. I really enjoyed this panel. The first thing I want to tell parents and the community is that we need to learn to listen to people who are actually living with disabilities, not just autism, but all disabilities. In my new role as William's counselor, kind of, and not his mom, I have learned that listening to other persons actually living with disabilities, I think TJ said it best. If you met one person with autism, I'm going to change out the word with a disability, you met one person, because everyone is different. But from a parent's perspective, we're nurturers, so we always feel this need to be protective of our children, and we always want them to have like successes. But what's also important is that they have the dignity of risk. And that means that they have the opportunity to make choices and to have the same failures that you and I have who are not living with a disability. And I know that's hard for us to see it. And that doesn't mean, I hear a lot of parents say, well, it's different for you because this person may be spewing with, they may need less support. But even with those who need more support, there are things that can help them to complete tasks and goals that we never thought about. Doing it for them is not going to ever make them independent. And that's what we need to focus on. So there's a whole lot I can go into, but I just want parents to just realize we will not be here forever. And we do have to respect the voice of those living with a disability.
Thank you so much. This panel has been just absolutely wonderful, and I loved hearing from all of you and all of your perspectives about autism acceptance and all kinds of your experiences. So we have just a few minutes. If anyone who is in the audience has a question, you can type it in the chat and I'll read it out, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
I like what Jada said, that when she's down, she's not keeping herself down, but she is ready to fight, almost like, let me just say, she's ready to kick ass, whatever is in her way, she's gonna fight it. And I mean, I think that is a valuable lesson, not only for myself, but for others who struggle with autism and or any other disability. I'm a person with mental illness. That's another type of disability. But I love what you said, and to all the speakers, I mean, I know TJ. Um, so I have no words for you, TJ. Just to say I love you, bro. But to all the other speakers,
Love you too.
to all the other speakers, I gotta say you're amazing. Keep up the work, and we need to have more panels like this.
Thank you, Chewy.
Yeah, did somebody, Philip, I think you mentioned what were our favorite subjects in school?
Yeah,
Oh, this about to be
that's the one I mentioned because I was curious to hear like yeah. Let me start over. I was just basically curious to hear what has always been the favorite subject school of the panelists.
I'm ready. Dylan, I could let you take this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it, Dylan.
Well, along with the question for self-advocates and for parents, for the question, what is a message you like to share with other parents of people with autism to help them connect and stay connected with their loved one? My mom, Miss Diane Burns, has a message. Her message for other parents is to never give up on your child. Always believe that they know more than they are sometimes able to express. Don't let anyone tell you that your child can't or won't be able to succeed. Keep pushing ahead to your child's tolerance threshold without frustrating them, and never stop loving the person they are outside of their autism.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. That's really great. And please thank your mom. Did you want to share, Dylan, your favorite subject in school?
Yeah, my favorite subject in school is music.
Music. Nice.
And also technology, learning how to
Oh.
do technology stuff since I'm in Columbia College Chicago, and since I'm majoring in radio, I'm learning how to do technology stuff while playing music.
Oh, cool. That's exciting.
My favorite subjects, anything with nonfiction, especially history. Oh my goodness. They say when you get into history, it's more fiction than fact, because even though history is like one of few sources of information, you can make so many inferences and what ifs about historical moments that you could make up a story based on that one fact, as opposed to with fiction, you going off of somebody else's imagination. Whereas with history, you could create more speculation. And I'm also been fascinated with, if you want to call it a subject, sports. God, I just like to hit people. I like to shoot the ball. I just like to run. And I'll keep doing it until I die.
David, do you have a favorite subject in school, or did you have a
Oh.
favorite subject?
And back when I was in school, I would say that my favorite subject was math because, yeah, well, I'm not really sure why. It's just that I was really fond of math. But then there was also the occasional writing projects, and that like making a whole story. It's a lot easier for me to come up with a story rather than trying to summarize one.
I'll also go. So one of my favorite subjects, well, just the wonder, I have not been in school in so long, but some of my favorite subjects were music. I also love language arts and reading. Also, because I love to write. I love writing songs and just writing about everything that I feel. So writing is also a huge one of my all-time favorite subjects, and also science. I love science. You know, I love just hearing about how the world was created, and you know how the planets and the stars they come together, and also just hearing about just the history of evolution and all those things. So yeah, reading, science, writing were just some, and also music as well were some of my favorite subjects in school.
Well, we have a lot more comments and questions in the chat, but I do want to recognize that we are out of time and just thank our amazing presenters for the work that they are doing and the stories that they told. It was so great to hear from you all. And if you want to put how people can connect with you in the chat, you can. But thank you so much for sharing with us and being with us. Thanks to our attendees for joining us this evening. It was a really fruitful panel because all of you were able to come and join us. So thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so as we wind down, again, this is Jay Jin. I just want to share as part of our closing this slide of just what autism acceptance is about, and just all the different words and ideas all around acceptance. And I just want to close by again echoing Helen and everyone's appreciation for just making this such an amazingly powerful, positive, engaging, and just a wonderful event and panel. I'm just so grateful to panelists and our moderator, Helen, our panelists, TJ, David, Dylan, Jada, Liza, and Kim, for just being so honest and sharing so much. And I just really am so grateful. And we all accept, in our community here, we all accept you, hear you, and see you, and just so appreciate everyone's participation and building community together. We wish you all a happy evening. And in terms of follow-up, we recorded the session, so when it's available, we will make sure that we also view it and reference it if you'd like. Again, thank you so much, and you all have a good night.